Praise God. You may be seated. We just want to share with you, we thank God we have plenty of time, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to be as brief as possible. There's so much enjoyment here. I have had a marvelous, wonderful time, and I have thoroughly been blessed by the previous messages. So I pray that the Lord will give you these few crumbs that I have, and that you will be blessed. The title of this little message, this little lesson, is The Hedge. Satan walked before God, going to and fro, and he said in Job 1 and 10, "Has not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he has?" Saints of God, we, by the grace of God, have been hedged in. God has had mercy upon the most of us, and he has blessed us richly. We have been hedged in. But the enemy of our soul has been chipping away at the hedge. I want you to know what the hedge is. It is prayer. We can build a hedge by praying. There are many situations that take place in our lives. And in Hosea, it says a way or path hedged up with thorns is mentioned. Now, let me explain about being hedged up with thorns. A member of my family told my husband and I, when we're building a house, that if you put hedges around with sharp thorns, it will help deter someone from trying to break into the house, because the thorns will stick and hurt them and cut them and what have you, and you can keep someone from breaking into your home with the thorns. So hedge in Job 1 and 10 is figuratively used to denote protection after the enemy has had his way. Job despaired of life. Job had been, everything had happened to him. He had lost everything that he had, and he despaired of life. And he had just about given up altogether. Now, I know there's some of you who have been in the same place. You have despaired of life. You have thought about giving up your salvation. You have been pushed to the edge. You have been pushed to the edge. You have climbed the precipice. You've just had such a rough and such a hard time. You've been talked about, misused, abused, accused, all those things. Everything that happens to the saints of God, those things have happened to some of you, and you have been deeply wounded and deeply hurt. But then think about the hedge. Amen. God has had some of us hedged in. Although we have suffered pain, nevertheless, the hedge has been protective. God has protected us. Now, he does back off every now and then and allow the enemy to have his way. And he thinks nothing of destroying you. He has people angry at each other, angry at the church, angry at the pastors, angry at situations, angry at their mother, their father, sisters and brothers, aunts, cousins, just angry. Have people so angry they don't know what to do with themselves. Sometimes they destroy themselves. But consider the hedge. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side, if it had not been the Lord who was on our side, he protected us. He is the hedge around us. I thought about, as I said, protected us. I know everybody's been teasing Brother Howard about that cat that's out there. Well, let me tell you what happened to us one night. We had, these were saints of God from our church, and we were at home having our devotion, and we were in the back of the house and sitting all around. My husband, he's sitting kind of catty-cornered, relaxed sort of, and the children were all around and what have you. And our friends came up on the porch, and they bam, 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 just beating on the front door. They were doing that to frighten us. Well, certainly it worked. All right, so Brother Howard went to get out of the chair. He couldn't move. We were on top of him. What had happened was had frightened us so bad till we went toward our protector. We went toward him, and he had to try to get from under us to get to the front door to take care of us. Okay, so you can be frightened. Everybody can be frightened but God. But the hedge is there for protection. God can help us to keep the enemy out. What side of the hedge are you on? Are you inside? Your situation now, are you on the inside, are you on the outside? You can be any place you choose to be tonight, but the hedge is there for protection. The hedge itself is prayer. Prayer builds the hedge up. Neglect of prayer makes it wither sort of down. It goes on down. Some of us have despaired of life, and Job did despair of life, and he asked this question: why is light given to a man whose way is hid, and whom God has hedged in? For my sighing cometh before I eat, and my roaring are poured out like the waters. For the thing which I greatly fear is come upon me. That which I was afraid of is come unto me. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet. Yet trouble came. I don't care what position you're in, trouble will come. I don't care how your little family is all set up and everything is working just right, and the husband's got a good job, and mama's at home taking care of the children, and the children are going to school, and all is well. Nevertheless, trouble is coming, or trouble has come. It'll meet you right at your door. Something is going on, some sickness, some illness, some terrible situation. Trouble is coming, but the hedge is there to protect you. The Lord has placed it there to protect you. Now you may say, you talked about thorns. Well, of course there are thorns. Listen, you can hurt yourself running up against the thorns. You can bag up and hurt yourself with the thorns, but it is still protection. It will take care of you. I remember how the Lord has blessed us. He has blessed us richly. He has had mercy upon us. He's blessed us because Satan could not get past the hedge. Although he can throw something, you know, have you seen the children out there throwing things? Well, they do. All right, so when you got a hedge, the enemy can throw something over the hedge. He'll do whatever it takes to destroy you and to bring you down. I tell you who can bring you down. Your wife, your husband, your children, your grandchildren, your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents, anybody and anything to get to you, because you need God to hedge you in, to hedge you in, to protect you. I don't want to forget to speak loudly. It's a large crowd. You need to be protected from what else? Yourself. We can self-destruct. You need to be protected from yourself. So prayer helps you to be protected from yourself. Your own self can cause you to self-destruct, and you can cause others to self-destruct. You need the hedge of prayer. When you neglect to pray, the hedge begins to fall away. Prayer keeps it nourished and healthy. Are you hedged in by various trials? Be assured that the testing of your faith leads to power to endure. Many times adversity causes one to become bitter, and you take it out on your friends and family. The people that are closest to you, you take your bitterness out on them. You remember some indiscretion. You remember some hard thing. You remember something, somebody touched you. Somebody did something to you. And some of it is true. They actually have done those things. But are you going to be hedged out or hedged in? Are you going to let God protect you? You're going to fight your own battles. You're going to get mad. You're going to end up lost. You're going to a devil's hell because you took up the battle yourself. I remember a co-worker. She was the department head. I taught school. She was the department head. So when I came in, the principal took me with him to go and judge another school. I had no idea why he chose me, and I didn't plan it. I didn't have anything to do with it. Well, this particular teacher became angry with me, and she stayed angry with me for the next few years until she retired. She said I came in to take her job. Who wants to be supervisor of a bunch of people? It's hard to do. Listen, it's hard to you do, you go in there and you teach your class, you're doing fine. But how are you going to take care of 6 others in your department? So it's not easy. But she said, I came to take her position. Saints of God, I had no idea. I was not there to take her position. All I wanted to do was get in my corner. My classroom was in the corner of the building. I wanted to get in my corner and do my job. But because of the principal, she thought I wanted to take her job. He gave me duties. He did. It wasn't me. So she despised me. She began to hate me. She began to discuss me with others. She tried to leave me out of everything that she could. And she was doing me a favor because I didn't want to do that much anyway. So she had left me out of it. That was fine. I remember she was over in the corner and she was just talking and she was just gathering them in and she was laughing and everything. And then they turned it back to me. I was glad. I stayed right in my classroom. I let them stand out there and laugh and talk. I didn't have nothing to do with it. I wasn't in it and I didn't mind. I remember once I was down on my knees behind my desk. I was praying. I prayed for them. I was asking God to have mercy. It wasn't what they did to me. It was how I reacted to it. And so I got on my knees in my classroom. I started doing it often. I needed that hedge to keep that classroom safe. And so I would get on my knees and I would pray and I would ask God to have mercy on them and certainly cover me with your blood. Keep me safe from these evil women. Keep me, Lord. Have mercy upon me. A young man saw me one time and I was out. She had been cutting up. And so he said, I can't hardly wait to get old so I can do what you do. Get old to do what I do? I'm just saved. He said, but you have to be saved a long time. You have to be old to go through what you have gone through with her. Look, I was tired. The lady had hurt me. She had injured me. She had been to the department, she had been to the offices. She had tried to break me, but she couldn't. I was innocent. I never came to do anything to her. I didn't go about trying to hurt her or bring her down or do anything. God had me hedged, saints of God. Glory be to God. He had me protected. She hated me for no reason. I want to go on to share with you that people hate you for no reason. It says here, the most savage of animals do not destroy its own species to appease his hunger, but man will destroy his fellow man for much less than something to eat. Man will kill, maim, harm his fellow man with his tongue. You can commit murder with your tongue. It's just the way you say it. You might be telling the truth, but you say it with a cutting way about you, a cutting mannerism. Evil comes out of the heart of man. Out of the heart of man. Beware, saints of God. But keep in mind, there's a hedge. You have to pray now to keep it watered and to keep it healthy. You have to pray to go in and out of a classroom, of a community of classes. We had 6 classes to each commons. It was a round building. And so one went that way and they went that way. And each was a department. So I was in the Department of English. And by the way, I became the department head and declined it. Told the principal, I don't need it. I don't need it. Now this was after she retired, but I didn't want it then. I told my husband, the saints, I don't want to be department head. It's too much work. But she had been after me because she thought I came to do it. Man will never be at peace with himself until he is at peace with God. Saints, you must be at peace with God to endure hardness as good soldiers, because it's coming. Hardness is coming. If it has not already come, it's on the way. You must be prepared. It's coming, saints of God. Listen, God didn't say we weren't going to suffer. He didn't. He told Job, he removed the hedge so that Satan could. He said, okay, go for it. I can trust Job. Can God trust you this evening? Can he remove the hedge and he can trust you to come on through? The church is split right down the middle. Can God trust you? Can he trust you to come on through? I see you're gonna be bitter. You're going to be hateful. You can't get it back together again. Are you going to be like that? Does God have you hedged in? That's what you need. You need the hedge. What is the hedge? The hedge is prayer. My Lord, you want to pray your way through everything that touches your life. You want to pray your way through. You want God to be right there with you. You want him to cover you. You want him to keep you safe. And though arrows and rocks and sticks and whatever is thrown over the hedge, you want to know without a shadow of a doubt that God has protected me, and I can duck and I can dodge and I can get down whenever they are throwing at you. Listen, pray on, my sisters and brothers. Pray on. Let God be in charge of you. No matter what situation you may find yourself in, know that God will allow Satan to get to you. He will allow Satan to test and to try you. Do you remember, has anybody read Pilgrim's Progress? Do you remember Pilgrim? Do you remember how the giant beat him? The giant just beat him down. He had a secret weapon. Does anybody know what the secret weapon was? The secret weapon was prayer. That's how Pilgrim, he came to him. After he had been beaten so bad, it came to him that, oh, I got a secret weapon. Prayer. Prayer is the answer. You behind the hedge. Listen, God is taking care of you. You can pray your way through. Satan is to test you and to try you. And if you don't give your heart over to prayer, you might be defeated. The giant, despair is what beat him. Despair. He gave in. He gave up. Everything is falling apart. The church is not like it used to be. But I tell you one thing, she's coming up out of the wilderness. The church is getting ready to fight this battle. The war is on. We're getting ready to go to heaven. We're getting ready to do it right. We're in a battle. This is a battle. The battle is hard. The conflict's sore, rough and rocky. The road we're traveling on. All we have to do is hold on a little longer. We want to take Jesus by the hand. We want to be sure that we are set and that we are ready and that we are prayed through and that we are hidden, that God has us back there ready to use us at any time. We must be pure. Listen, young people, your heart must be right with God. In order for him to use you, you must be pure. You must get it right. Keep in mind, God has a hedge around you. When you're in trouble and people are talking at you, mistreating you, when you're out in public, keep in mind that hedge of prayer. Parents, pray before you go out. Now, there's a story out, I know that you all have heard it before, about this mother telling her teenage daughter, don't go with the guys this time. Don't go out with them this time. Stay home. Stay home. Home is a good place. That's a good place of safety. Stay home. So she said, well, I'm going. So her mother said, well, if you're going, take God with you. She said, if God goes, he's going to be in the trunk. He's not going with us. He's not going to ride in the car. Glory be to God. They took off. Not long after, they had a fatal accident. But look, there were some eggs in the trunk. Not a one of them broke. If God was riding in the trunk, that was the safest place in the car. She said, if he'd go with us, he'll be in the trunk. My Lord and my God, the eggs were not broken. Listen, saints of God, behind the hedges at the house. Listen, there's some terrible teenagers out there. I taught them. I taught honors English and regular English. And I taught 11th and 12th grade. The older ones, before they go out to college. I had some let's see, what you call them? They're so bad. They go in hell. What you call them? Hellions. That's where they're going. They are bad. Okay, so you could hardly do anything with them. Look, but I tried to handle them, you know. I tried to be as tough as any of them was. And I would tell them, you know, they had a saying down at our high school. They said, I ain't never scared. Okay, so you know they pronounced it improperly. You know, it was incorrect. But anyway, so that's what they would say. They were tough gang leaders and what have you. So you want to challenge them. You know, you got to be as tough as they are. So they would come to my classroom. I make them sit down. I make them do what they're supposed to do and do their work. And they're old ladies, this and that. You know, that's how I refer to myself. You step up out of my classroom. You through. You don't come back in here. All right. So then I'll tell my mama, bring her on. I need to talk to her. I need to tell her about you. I had a little girl that told me, she just, oh Lord, she had such a bad spirit. So I had the other children passing out the test and what have you. She took her test and slammed it on the floor. Okay, so she said, and I'm going to tell my mama on you. Okay, it was her stepmother, actually her real mother. Her daddy wasn't with her. I think her mother was deceased. Okay, well, I said, I want you to do that. Come on, bring them in. I want to see them. I want to talk to them. She brought her stepmother and her father in there. And she came in and she just, so I said, I'm so glad to see you all. Welcome. I want you to know just what she did after she threw that test on the floor. And she said she wasn't going to do the work. And she said this and she said that. And she threatened me with you. The lady stood there and cried. Listen, she didn't know that girl was carrying on like that. And you know what her daddy said? Now look, daddies, you're going to have to do better. He turned to her and said, I told you talk too much. Listen, he should have been in control. If he had walked in there, fear should have gripped her heart. Do you know the last thing our son wanted is for UPS to pull up outside that school? They didn't want Brother Howard down there, and they didn't want me. I was at home every day. My son told the math teacher, she lived in our neighborhood, said, don't call her. I'll do it. Don't call. You don't need to call her down here. Don't do it. Listen, he wanted to be one of the crowd. Had his pen, he was slacking. I walked up down and she had called me. He didn't know she had called me. She called me. So I went down to the school. I was heading to a classroom. Lo and behold, my son is 6'3". Lo and behold, here come this big, tall, black boy with his pants slacking. And he walked up on me. I went straight for his belt. Right there in the hall. Pull them pants up. Tighten this belt up. Let's go back around in there. Mama, he was so embarrassed. Well, who was the most embarrassed? Me? That's right. Who was the most embarrassed? And I was not afraid of him. And I tried to whip him. He was so tall and tough. He just stood there and he took it. Although my husband had threatened him from the bedroom. He was laying across the bed. He said, don't move, son. And that was all that was needed. But for children to threaten a teacher, or for children to be so out of order to their parents or afraid of them, the work has not been done. Parents, it's time for you to go to work. Don't let the children go over the hedge. Don't let them get out without, you need to keep them under prayer. You can't let them get loose and cut up like this. People start not to like them. Lord, have mercy on the children. Listen, keep them behind the hedge. Pray for the children. Pray, pray, pray. They get the good children and they corrupt them. Lord, have mercy. Our children don't have enough power within their little selves to stand against them. That's what they need. So you need to be pounding. You need to be teaching continuously. You need to don't let them get away with nothing. You want them to be like my children were. My daughters would stand beside me, 4 little girls, stair steps, one right behind the other. I told them, don't move. I'm standing here, you stand here. I explained to them, something could happen to you if you move away. You could get run over by a car if you run ahead of me. Anything could happen to you, but I'm here. I'm your hedge. I'll take care of you. I'll give my life for you, but you got to be right here with me. Amen. You got to be right. I would call their name Shannon Bridget. No, it was Deidre Carmen Shannon Bridget. Deidre Carmen Shannon Bridget called her whole name in one name. I expected them all to be right there. One of them tried to run away. She jumped out the window, out of her bedroom window, which was about as high as, you know, down there. She jumped out the window, she ran back, came on back home, just ran right around the house, came on back in while the others were telling on her. They had all planned to jump out. I just walked up. Now listen, I was on my job. My job was to take care of him. His job was to go out and take care of all of us. He would go out and work 3 jobs. He would clean buildings at night, work for UPS in the day, clean buildings at night, and cut grass on Saturday because he wanted me to stay home. He wanted us to be taken care of, and so that's what he did. He took care of us. Okay, so what was my job? I made sure the family was standing up there right. I made sure that every one of us was in our place, doing well our part, doing what we're supposed to do. He built a hedge, we stayed behind it. We did right by the living grace of God. I wanted my children to be successful, and by God's grace, some of them are. I didn't win it all. Some of them are very successful and are sweet. Some of them are not. Okay. No matter what situation you find yourself in, no matter what it is, Satan has an opportunity to destroy you, and that's what he wants to do. I don't want him to. My Lord, I don't want him to have nothing to do with you. We want to remember, do you know how many promises there are in the King James Version of the Bible? There are 31,102. Who said they knew? Did anybody say, yes, we know? 31,102, according to Google. I haven't gone through there and counted them myself. But Google says, on the internet, 31,102 in the King James Version of the Bible. And we want to remember, I know you, the children take history, and some of you are history buffs. You remember the slaves, what they suffered? Does anybody, am I the only one that remember that? Just me and you? Okay, okay, you got somebody else remember. Do you remember the Indians, what they suffered? Okay, so we got a few people that remember the Indians. Y'all don't remember the slaves, you remember the Indians. Okay. Do you not think God had a hedge around them too? Because he's no respecter of persons. He's no respecter of persons. The Indians are stone rich, although they got it by gambling. And black people have come up. God had a, he's equal. He's equal. Is he not equal? In the form of slaves. Where's the Indian? Praise the Lord. Well then, if you are sitting here today, you've been blessed. If your parents were former slaves, you've been blessed. It was the hedge that protected you. You've been protected. You've been taken care of. God has blessed you. He has kept you in spite of yourself. He has had mercy upon you. He's had mercy upon me. Now, my mother said her grandmother was an Indian. She said she was the meanest woman that ever walked the face of the earth. Okay, that was her grandmother. My mother had beautiful flowing hair. I didn't. I got my daddy's hair straight out of Africa. I got daddy. Okay, so happy with it. Thank the Lord. All right. For which one suffered the most? So we talk about the Indians or the former slaves. But I say unto you, God is fair. He is equal. I believe God. I know what there has been. I know that there has been a hedge about me for many years, for all the years of my life. I would not be here today if God had not had me hedged in, if God had not blessed and took care of me. The situation, you know, when you're a teenager, you get into something, and I used to think, okay, if I get in it, if I agree I'm going to do this, then I'm going to take the punishment. Okay, everybody don't think like that. Most people think, if I get in and I get out, thank God I got away that time. Well, my mother didn't let folks get away for long. She said, I'm going to get you for old and new. She meant that, okay? And so whatever I decided to do something, I had to consider, am I going to be punished? Well, yes, if she finds out. All right, so we don't want to be in that position today, young people. We don't want you to do anything that will cause you any harm and cause your parents to punish. Now what they say is, send them to the corner. Time out. I was the only one that was going to have time out around my house. I'm the only one that's going to have time out. I'll take a nap in the middle of the day, get up and be ready when my husband come home, and you're going to be straight. I'm the only one that's having a time out. You're going to keep your room clean. You're going to read a book. You're going to read. You're going to learn how to read. Children don't know how to read, people. They come to school, juniors and seniors, who can't. It's too late by then. They can't read. They hate to read. How can you comprehend? How can you comprehend seeing it on the computer? You don't read. What about this book? Have you finished this book? Have you finished that book? I don't read. I don't like to read. Well, how did you become a senior? How did you make it? That's right. That's right. Lying, cheating on tests, misbehaving, stealing people's papers, paying somebody to do your work, and after all is said and done, you are incapable of being an adult because you don't know what to do with yourself. All right, they also, I share with my students about pilfering. Everybody knows what pilfering is, don't you? I know. Very good. Pilfering is stealing a little bit. Stealing a little bit. Pilfering, you just steal a little bit. Just steal just a little bit. All right. People out in the street marching. This young man went into a store pilfering The camera showed that the owner tried to stop him, and that he turned toward the owner aggressively. This wonderful teenager. He turned aggressively toward the owner of the store. The owner went backwards. He didn't want to confront this big old huge boy. Pilfering, he's stealing. It's stealing, saints of God, when you pilfer. That's simply stealing. So he comes out. The people call the police. The police pull up and he walk off. The police calling him back, he keep walking. Well, lo and behold, he turns aggressively, because he's big and black. I can say that. He turns aggressively toward the police. And so in the interim, he gets shot. He's killed in the street. Now people are marching left and right, marching and protesting. When the boy was a thief. I tried to tell the boys that he was a thief. He was stealing. Do you know the mindset? They said, that wasn't nothing. That little bitch, you can get that. That wasn't nothing. Who raising you? What are you talking about? That wasn't nothing. This child was a thief. My Lord. He had not been behind the hedge of prayer. He probably pretty much, and his parents out there all sad and what have you. This boy was a thief and a bully. Yeah. What do you expect? I know some are innocently taken down, but this child was a thief and a bully, and people walk in the streets protesting. He was stealing. He had it with him. A policeman with a gun, and he gonna walk up, go confront him. Who do you think you are? What in the world is going on? Everything has gone to pot. Lord, have mercy upon us. These precious children, these tender hearts, protect them, hedge them in, parents, teach them. We don't want to see them die in the street, glory be to God. We don't want to see nobody out protesting and walking because you're a young black or white man that died in the street before you got a chance to grow up and become a man because of something stupid you did. Listen, I'm a parent. My husband bought me a car. After 4 years, he had paid for it. We gave it to my son. One owner, brand new, gave it to him. Listen, the boy was so spoiled, he went to the military, parked the car in Louisiana, left it there, sitting on the street. He left the car. Good grief. He left the car. Lord, have mercy on us. What are we doing? We want to be careful. We want to be careful what we do. And you talking about pray. We had prayed for that child. So, saints, you better hedge these children in. We want to keep them. We want to keep them safe. They'll get away. They'll slip out. The enemy has something he hold up, a play pretty, that will draw them away from you. You got to be on guard. You have to watch for them. You got to, listen, I had a daddy come in my classroom. Him and his boy was both really, really tall. The boy had been lying. He had lied on me and what have you and about his work. So they were writing research papers. This boy couldn't write his name hardly, much less writing the paper. So he said, he put it on my desk and I lost it. That's what he told his dad. So his daddy gonna come in and confront me. I said, no, and he can't come back in here. I'll see y'all in the office. All right, we had 2 doors where the principal could, you can go in and see the principal as a teacher, and then the parents, the principal invite the parents through the regular front door. So I went in around there, that boy's lying on me. He did not write his paper. I am not gonna give him the grade for it. I went in and told the principal. All right, so the daddy goes in. And they swear and declare that I'm lying on the boy, that his paper was put on my desk and I lost the paper. Parents, don't you know teachers don't go in there just to turn on your child? Don't you know if that boy wrote that paper, I would have been happy? I would have been able to see what he has comprehended and what he is capable of doing. And what it was nothing. He had comprehended nothing. All he was slick. He was a liar and slick. And he convinced his daddy that he was right. He had put his paper. The boy couldn't write. I probably would have given him a 60 and passed him. But he was so deceitful. Do you know the principal helped him? He passed him. He just went in, changed my grade, and passed him. I refused to do so. Saints of God, you ought to hedge these children in. Teach them to be honest. Teach them not to be slick. Don't you know I was on that boy's side? Everyone that came into my classroom, I was on that child's side. Don't you know when somebody's eyes light up and they have comprehended something? It's just like when a pastor preaches and people line the altar. Don't you know that the pastor is happy because these people getting it right, because they're saved, because they want to behave, because they want to make corrections? Don't you know God gets glory from that? Well, then a teacher glories when a child comprehends, when light comes in the eye and they understand what you just told them and they pass a test. Listen, I could give them the answers. I have sat at my desk and told them, just write this down. Number 1 is A. Number 2 is C. Number 3 is B. And go on all the way down. Give them 50 answers. Take it home and study it. 50 answers. Give them the test the next day, they fail it. I gave them the answers. What more can I do? I tried to teach the work, they didn't comprehend that. I gave them the answers. All they had to do is take it home and study. You could have said number 1 is A, and then skip every, number 3 is, and try to memorize. Couldn't even do that. Just gave them the answers. They still couldn't do it. You could have counted, done something, but you didn't put no effort into it. You didn't try. What is going on? We're losing them. We're losing them, saints. What's going on? My Lord, have mercy. For in that he himself has suffered being tempted, Christ suffered, he is able to secure them that are tempted. When you are in trouble, because Christ suffered and died for all of us, he's able to understand. Go and talk to him. That's what prayer is about. You go and you talk to him. His life, he came that we may have a right to the tree of life. Just think about him as your hedge. In Hebrews 2:18, for in that he himself has suffered being tempted, he is able to secure them that are tempted. Hebrews 5:8, though he were a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. All them that obey him. So submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to God and he will draw nigh to you. Purify your hearts, ye double-minded. And verse 11, speak not evil one of another, brethren. He that speaketh evil of his brother will come to no good end. Listen, saints, I want the children to be successful. I want them to be hid behind the hedge of prayer. Please, saints of God, consider it. Consider. We want them to be in order. We want them to be children that Christ would be proud of. What did he say? Suffer the little children come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. Not these wild folks now. Not somebody that's pilfering and intimidating other people. Not some gang leader. They are not. That's not the kingdom of heaven. They're not like that in heaven. That's the peaceful behavior. Just playing out there, not hurting one another, enjoying one another. That's what heaven is about. It's not about all these gang leaders and all this foolishness and all this walking the streets. And listen, somebody told me they was a Christian. They was slacking. And so the boy was leaving class. Yeah, slack. A Christian? I said, do you think my Lord dresses like that? Can you imagine Jesus coming through the hallway? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine his pants down where you can see his derriere? Can you imagine? How in the world are you a Christian, boy? Are you representing Christ here? That's right. Christ wouldn't look like that. That's right. Remember what Christ looks like, saints of God. And I'm not talking about all his robes. I'm talking about his plainness of dress. He ain't got no chain swinging on beside him. He ain't got no rag tied around his head. He ain't got nothing hanging out of his pocket. He ain't so cool and everything. He can't even stand up straight. He done walk so and swung so until he can't even walk straight when he get old. Listen, saints, there was a boy that went to high school with me and my husband. He used to walk like this all the time. When he got grown, he was still doing the same thing. He's walking like this. Couldn't even change. Done messed himself up. Listen, walk straight. Walk straight. Stand up straight. Walk straight. Keep your pants up. It is ugly to see any part of your body that should be covered up. It is hideous. It is horrible. And girls, don't you look at them. You don't need to look at them much anyway, but don't you dare look at them. If they slacking, don't you have nothing to do with them. They have not been behind the hedge. They have not been under prayer. Amen. But then some of them, you know, you pray like I don't know what for them. They slip from under there. Somehow they go wrong. But what we want to continue to pray. We want to hide behind the hedge. I do love children. My husband do too. But saints of God, they have gotten out of order. Might I say, excuse me, your children might be out of order. Watch them. Watch them like a hawk. Be on guard. Don't let them slip away. Lord, have mercy upon them. Don't let them slip away. We want to be drawn unto Christ. I don't want the children to get away. We have a thought here. The world is filled with animosity, hatred, terrorists, and murderers. Man will never be at peace with himself until he is at peace with God. If it were not the saints, if it were not for the saints, we would be living in hell on earth. If it was not for God's people, we would be living in a horrible, horrible, cesspool. It would be ridiculous, the cesspool that we would be living in. If it had not been the Lord that was on our side. I thank God that he had mercy upon us. I thank God that we were able to endure hardness as good soldiers. And the fact of enduring is bearing pain. It became a word in the 15th century. It means continued existence in time, meaning ability to endure suffering, ability to endure suffering. We want to remember Christ suffered. He didn't have no good time while he was down here. He suffered. And if we want to be like him, we're going to suffer too. And so, saints of God, especially the children, stay behind the hedge. Don't get out. Don't jump out. Stay with your parents, especially if you have praying parents. Stay with them. Stay behind the hedge. Brother Campbell. Amen.